Rivers make you shake this trade deadline Thursday. Thanks so much for checking out 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot. I am Brian Seltzer. We are joined, as always, by Lauren Rosen. We've got a big show tonight. A lot has been happening, especially within the last hour or so. So thanks for bearing with us. We got on a little bit late tonight. That's because addressed the media about 25 minutes ago. Then right after that, Doc Rivers spoke. The reaction to George Hill and Ignas Brazdeikis, now 76ers, thanks to a 3-team trade with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the New York Knicks that was made just on this trade deadline Thursday.
Yeah. Respect the floor, Daryl Morey. From three, he can get it done on the defensive end. And those are two places where these Sixers are looking for maybe a little bit more, despite the fact that, of course, they continue to lead the Eastern Conference. No major changes, but Daryl Morey also said when you're on pace to win 55 or 60 games in a regular season, it's hard to upgrade. So they certainly did that. They got their upgrade that they wanted, and they're going to keep it moving with the remaining core that has been so successful so far this season.
I feel like the trade deadline day for everyone, maybe even the 48 hours leading up to it, is an exhausting experience. I mean, look, I feel like I could not look more haggard than I do right now, and we still have a 10 o'clock game coming up in about an hour. Not sure if we can show the details of the deal on our lower third below, just to show you guys what were some of the particulars surrounding today's trade that the 76ers made. But yes, George Hill, the biggest name of the bunch. Ignas Brazdeikis was a pickup from the New York Knicks. He was a draft pick in 2019 who actually worked out for the 76ers at the training complex going into that year's draft. And he plays well in the G League, not a lot of NBA experience. So that's who's in, Hill and Brazdeikis. Leaving the 76ers, going to OKC, Tony Bradley. We thank you humbly for your service. It was a great service by Tony Bradley, especially that last game. What a way to go out against the Golden State Warriors on Tuesday. A couple second-round picks are on the way out. Terrence Ferguson and Vincent Poirier. They are going to the New York Knicks as well.
Daryl Morey did also allude to Joel Embiid's suggestion that they had been building around Tony Bradley this whole time. And Daryl thanked Tony for everything that he's done, because he's been absolutely huge for the Sixers without Joel Embiid. And you can't discount Tony Bradley when you think about the success that this team has had. So the fact that he was able to even make this deal happen shows that he played his way into being an important piece in this trade. So we wish Tony Bradley, of course, nothing but the best.
Yeah, great minutes, great contributions from Tony Bradley Jr. Very exciting to have George Hill in the fold. This is his 13th NBA season. He's been in the postseason in all but one of his years in the league. He's never won a title. He's had some overlap with members of the current 76ers organization. So this is hot off the presses. I believe we have a bite from the Presidente, Daryl Morey, talking about today's move.
Doc said it best. I mean, Doc loves his team, loves how we're playing. I love this team. I love how we're playing. Obviously, I got a tough one tonight with the Lakers and a little more shorthanded. Sorry, Coach Rivers. We're a little more shorthanded tonight. Yeah, I mean, I think we feel very good about the roster we have, our chances to win the championship, and I think Doc had some good comments recently about looking for a two-way guard, and that being one of what he thought were the very few needs for us. And so that's what we got with George, a veteran two-way guard, can shoot at a very high level and defend at a high level. I think one thing that Coach Rivers and Coach Burke can do right now is put, 5, strong playoff tested guys who can play both ends on the floor at one time if they want to do that in crunch time. So we're pretty excited about that.
So a couple things to what Daryl referenced in that quote right there, Lauren. Number one, yeah, George Hill can shoot it. He led the NBA in three-point percentage in 2019-20, so last season at 46%. But I thought it was really interesting, just kind of listening a little bit more closely to some of the details that Daryl was talking about. He referenced Dan Burke, and for the people out there who don't know, Dan is the defensive coach for the 76ers on Doc Rivers' staff. So I think this move is as much about defense for the 76ers, maybe even more so than what might be happening on the offensive end of the floor. I think the Sixers really feel like once the playoffs come, they don't want to have an area where the opposition can exploit them. And it seems to me like this move was about that as much as anything else.
No doubt about it. It was definitely match up focused. And we heard Daryl also say that he believes the Sixers are going to finish the season as the best defense in the league. We've seen such good defense from this team before the break, and then especially after the break, even without Joel Embiid. So imagine what level they're going to be able to unlock when Joel comes back into the fold. Perhaps maybe the biggest acquisition of all is the idea that Joel Embiid can come back to this team, but also adding a defender like George Hill, who is so respected for his work on that end of the floor.
If you follow us on the 76ers Podcast Network, we have a Friday deep dive out now, instant reaction with myself, Lauren, Devon Givens, to today's trade. And one of the things that we talked about that I'll bring up here is, what does this move represent? Yes, obviously, George Hill is a proven quality veteran contributor, but this move also says kind of something indirectly, or maybe it's not so indirect, that the Sixers, they like, it seems, where the roster was, and they were not willing to shake things up for a team that's already 31-13. They're the second best team in the league via record. And the last time they played the best team, Utah, they rolled.
Well, we heard Doc Rivers say it a couple months ago when there was also some trade buzz around this team. He said sometimes the best move you make is the move you don't make at all. And today the Sixers clearly did make a good move, but the restraint, the confidence that they've put into the existing group also speaks pretty loudly today in the lack of maybe secondary or tertiary moves. It's an exciting sort of stamp of approval on the group that currently exists. And we've heard Doc Rivers talk about how much he loves coaching the group that exists. We've heard the players talk about how much they love playing with one another. And so it's pretty cool to see them get to continue doing what they've been working on already.
Let's see if we can take a look at some of the numbers on George Hill as he gets set to join the 76ers for the stretch run of the season. Yes, the 76ers are buying George Hill. He played 14 games with Oklahoma City at the start of this season. He suffered a thumb injury towards the end of January. So actually the last game he played in was on January 25th. The timetable for his return sounded, Lauren, based on what Daryl said, sooner rather than later. I think the biggest takeaway from what Daryl said when he was talking about George's health is that come playoff time, no question, the Sixers expect George Hill to be 100% ready to go.
Yeah, I can't really opine on an injury that I know nothing about, but it did seem, based on what Daryl Morey had to say earlier, that it looks like he will be back in the fold when it matters with his new Sixers teammates.
Right. What Daryl said was that this thumb injury was something that by getting surgery on it, George Hill was making a decision that would then correct this injury for the future. And whatever the problem was with the thumb ligament, it won't be an issue again. So that was coming from Daryl Morey in the press conference. And also, Daryl, let's play another bite from the press conference. Daryl drew a comparison between George Hill and the type of player that another 76er is.
That's a big factor. And obviously, shooting being a premium for us. And, you know, I think he maybe led the NBA in shooting recently. I mean, he's, I think that's been a big theme for us. To get the shooting in a two-way player like sort of Danny, I sort of see him as an acquisition like we did with Danny Green, guy who's been through a lot of playoff wars, guys who can hit shots at a high level such that when Joel is double teamed or people have to collapse on Ben in the paint, those passes out will be shot at a very high percentage. And then on top of it, both Danny and George give you solid defense, solid playoff tested defense. And that was a big factor as well.
Something that came up in Daryl's press conference was that he said he feels like Doc Rivers, is not being talked about enough in best coach this season conversations. But also one of the pieces of evidence he threw out there, just kind of like as an aside in support of that, was that he feels like just about everyone on the roster is having a career type year under Doc Rivers. And I think that certainly speaks to Doc and the way he's playing some of the 76ers top players, namely Joel Embiid. So the fact that someone like a Seth Curry can come in or a Danny Green can come in and with all that attention on Joel, find themselves with higher proficiency shooting opportunities is not a surprise based on the way Joel's been playing. And George Hill is someone who probably could capitalize in a similar type of dynamic.
Yeah, and my mentions sort of went on fire when I tweeted that quote from Daryl. And yes, I understand that Dwight Howard is not the all-star that he used to be, but he's playing the best basketball he can play for who he is today. And I think that that's probably what Daryl Morey meant. And he probably also wants you guys to look a little closer at Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, those guys who certainly are playing their best basketball at this point. It's a really cool stamp of approval on Doc's work that he has been able to bring out the best in these already very talented players. I love that quote too, Self.
Before we move on to talking about, oh yes, a game tonight, the other thing that came up in Daryl's press conference was the buyout market. We know the 76ers have made some key moves there in the past during their playoff runs. This year, it seems like, Lauren, Daryl's going to let circumstances dictate.
Yes, indeed. He said he feels good about where the team is headed into the buyout market, but as we saw today with the trade deadline, not willing to make any sort of crazy moves that would really change the chemistry or the DNA of this team that's working so well. So we'll be curious to see how he and his group approach the buyout market, but remaining really confident and excited about the group that exists as of today.
Listen, we know we have two of the best live stream producers that are in the game today, and Ryan Coletti and Trevor Gaffney. They are cranking some of these Daryl Morey sound bites. Let's hear that one about Doc Rivers.
It's not my job. Doc Rivers will decide that. He'll honestly, Doc Rivers has pushed every right button this year. I wish there was, I guess a lot's being written now, thankfully, but more should be written about the job Doc Rivers and his staff has done. I mean, he's got literally every, I challenge you to find a player or team not playing at their best of their career. Doc's done an amazing job. He's going to decide those things. My job is just to add the talent and the players and let Doc decide what's best. But I think, he has options. I think he can go a whole bunch of different ways, and all of them should be pretty strong and hard to beat in a 7-game series.
Love to hear that. Whatever the arrangement is, it's working so far this season, Lauren. You cannot dispute that.
And I'm with it. We talked about it when the Sixers got done playing the Bucks in that overtime game at the center. Hard to say that any team would really definitely have an edge over the Sixers in a 7-game series. Daryl also talked a little bit about the Nets and the threat that they, of course, pose. But with this heightened defense on a team that was already looking really good defensively, I look forward to that series if it comes as well.
So the 76ers, yes, they have a game tonight against the Los Angeles Lakers. No LeBron James, no Anthony Davis for the Lakers. Marc Gasol seems like he will be back. Sixers, this is the third game on their 6-game road trip. It's not going to wrap up for another week, which is insane. The Sixers, they've won their first 2 games. They beat the Knicks. They beat the Golden State Warriors the other night in a back-and-forth competitive game. Great effort by the Sixers to win that one, 108-98. They only gave up 13 points in the fourth quarter, and now the Sixers have a 3-game winning streak that's tied for the longest in the NBA.
For sure. This is a team that's looked mighty good lately, 9-1 in their last 10 and doing a really good job on the road. Really happy Celts to be able to squash the narrative that existed previously about this team on the road. They've done a great job. They made it happen in Golden State or at Golden State when the Warriors made that late comeback in the third quarter. Good to see the team, again, fight through adversity, fight through late pushes from other teams, and find ways to make it happen.
Ben Simmons, open floor, very nice jam. Ben Simmons in his second game back. But yes, we cannot discuss the 76ers' performance in that game on Tuesday without the now outgoing Tony Bradley. He really was great. Fantastic game for him, 18-11. That was a career performance and a noteworthy way to go out. But as the game went along, the Sixers found themselves in a little bit of a back and forth And listen, we know the story this season. Tobias Harris playing exceptionally well. And lo and behold, he finished with 25 points, 13 rebounds, a huge rebounding presence for the 76ers that was much needed, 4 assists and a block shot in 36 minutes for Tobias.
And just a few nights earlier, 2 assists away from his first career triple-double. Tobias Harris has been everywhere. He's expressed for so long that he wants to be relied upon as a closer, and now I think he can absolutely say that he is. He has really proven himself late in games against good opponents, bad opponents, at home, on the road. He is doing it all for this team late in games, making it happen however it matters most.
We have some breaking news on the 76ers front, and this is great news. 2 injury updates. Seth Curry, Danny Green, they are both back and available tonight. I presume Seth Curry was the more injury-related situation there. And Danny Green, obviously, if you read the news out there, Danny Green is available tonight for the Sixers, so he is good to go. That's great news for the Sixers. They are getting healthier and healthier. Obviously, Joel, the only one right now who is not there.
Which leaves, of course, a question of who will start in place of Joel Embiid. The Sixers, of course, have a few options, and it'll be great to see those two back in the fold. Of course, Danny Green never actually missed any games on this trip, but Seth has been out, and it'll be great to see him back.
Amen to that. So why don't we move on? Let's get some inside access for tonight's game as the Sixers visit the Lakers, and Danny Green is one of 2 players in the Sixers, of course, who spent last year's title season with the purple and gold.
Right, you are, Seltz. The other one, of course, is Dwight Howard, who I got to catch up with this morning. To hear that, how do you feel about the way you guys have been playing without Joel in these last few games, and how much confidence can that give you guys, as especially a second unit, as you head down the stretch and into the playoffs?
Oh, man, we just got to keep going. We can never get satisfied with the way we've been playing. We're very happy with our progress, but it's a marathon. And you can never get too high, you can never get too low. You got to stay balanced. And I think that we just have to continue to do that, continue to push each other. And I know Joel is getting his body right, getting ready to rejoin the team. But we're going to hold it down for him. And the biggest thing is making sure that we're all healthy and ready for the playoffs.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dwight.
You're welcome.
Martin or Duce?
Dwight also had some nice things to say about George Hill. Sorry about that, Lauren.
No, you're good. He sure did. George Hill, of course, is so well respected around this league for other veterans like Dwight Howard, who have gone up against him many, many times. Danny Green has gone up against him many, many times and shared the floor with him in San Antonio for a few years. So it'll be cool to see how George Hill joins that group of veterans. As we know, Dwight Howard, along with Danny Green, Tobias Harris have really taken big-time leadership roles on this team. And now they're getting another respected veteran who can sort of join the fold among that leadership group.
In a perfect world for the Lakers, there would be a lot of veteran talent on that roster available for tonight's game, but not the case. LeBron James is out with a right ankle sprain. It sounds like he's probably a month and a half, 2 months away from returning, which would time out just in time for the playoffs. Anthony Davis is out with a right calf strain. Marc Gasol is returning for the Lakers. Listen, they still have some really good veteran talent in the backcourt, and Dennis Schroeder and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but they're trying to halt a 3-game losing streak, which is their second longest losing streak of the season.
And it's tough when you're missing your best players. The Sixers know it. They've perhaps done a little bit of a better job adjusting to it lately. No shade to the Lakers, of course, who are also going through it right now. It's never fun to not be able to play with your best player. And I'm sure we'd all have a little bit of an easier time staying up tonight if everybody on both sides was going to be available.
And one of the highlight games of the season so far, Lauren, was that first matchup of the year between the Lakers and the 76ers at the center. One of the, at that point in time, because there's been a lot more since then, a real signature effort by Tobias Harris in that game.
No doubt about it. That game winner that to me felt like a perfect cherry on top of an already credible all-star case for Tobias. And of course, we know how we feel about Tobias's all-star status on this program, but it was a really exciting opportunity for Tobias to cement himself as an option, as a closing option, even with Joel Embiid on the floor. And he really did it that night against LA. That was one of my favorite memories so far of this season.
All I got to say is thank goodness for my Tissot Chrono XL NBA special edition, because, Lauren, on days like this, if I didn't have this watch on, this timepiece, I couldn't tell you what day it was, what time it was, what the heck are we doing? We've had a trade deadline. We have a 45 minutes, a lot. Yes, now time for our Tissot keys to the game. Lauren, go first.
I got you, Seltz. My Tissot key to the game tonight is together through it all. It sounds a little bit corny, but this is a team that has expressed that they've really enjoyed playing with one another this year. Tonight, the Lakers, without, of course, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, this is a very winnable game for a team that loves playing together. So just go out there, play together, play your brand of Sixers basketball, your culture that you've created, especially on the defensive end. Stay together through it all. Enjoy being with one another, who you already enjoy being with, and let the joy shine through. I know it sounds silly, but I think as long as they bring that togetherness that they've been so excited about, tonight could be a really nice win.
I feel like you, Lauren, used this phrasing for a key earlier this season. I can't think that I would actually come up with this because it sounds nice. Be the better D. That is my key. Be the better defense. The Lakers, they obviously are missing two of their better defenders in James and Davis, but they're the number one defensive rated team in the league, half point per 100 possessions better than the 76ers. So for the Sixers tonight, look at Schroeder, look at Caldwell Pope, get after that in the backcourt, be the better defense. I think the 76ers are that. They should get the W tonight. And those are our keys to the game. They're brought to you by the great company that brings you this 7-6 Live Countdown. It is Tissot. Middle game of this road trip, Lauren Rosen. Any closing thoughts before we wrap it up?
Just looking forward to finishing this ride with this group. It's been such a pleasure to watch them excel and really hold down the Eastern Conference, with or without their all-stars, with or without a lot of guys in the core lineup. To know that this is the group we're rocking with, at least ahead of the buyout market, but this is the primary group that the Sixers will be rocking with, headed down the stretch, headed into the playoffs. I'm just looking forward to it, Self. I'm honestly not even that mad about this 10 p.m. start tonight.
All right. I'm going to try to get to that wavelength. A huge thank you. Yes, yes, precisely. At some point, because even when they were at home out of the All-Star break, they played these 8 o'clock home games. That is a violation. Yeah, there's a lot of things I would fix about this world in a serious note. But listen, when you're at home, 7 o'clock, maybe 7:30.
It's been quite the schedule, Seltz. One thing I won't miss when we get into next season is the density of this schedule, the late nights that we're on the East Coast for. It's going to bring a whole new level of gratitude to a regular schedule. And I think a few players could probably agree with me on that one.
Yes. So thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Trevor and Ryan. Awesome job tonight getting those sound bites hot off the presser for Daryl Morey. George Hill, now a 76er, obviously not with the team tonight, but stay tuned. The next game is coming on Saturday against the Clippers, and we'll have any updates between then and now. And also, check the Friday Deep Dive. It's out now. Devon, Lauren, and I talk more about today's dealings. See you later.